bedroom recording again, and it's really cloudy, so sorry if light's kind of all freaky and weird. It's early morning on a Saturday. Yesterday went to doctor's, and hubby ended up taking me out to the ocean so I can just kind of decompress because I'm kind of losing my marbles. Yeah, I know, I gotta relax a bit. I ended up getting some news on Thursday night, I think it was. Other days are kind of mixing together. Heard from the west side of the island. It's sort of the one person called, and then spread all the information, and then finally got to me, which is great. And two of my aunts, I think the first story was, it's kind of weird how this works out because it's my aunt that lives in the northwest side of the island. She evacuated, thank God. Went to a neighbor's house who had a much stronger home. I mean, it's not as if my aunt's house was anything, terrible. It's just, she had a fear that maybe, something would happen to the roof, and that's what happened. It just ripped off, and her house is destroyed. So that's a little devastating, but she's alive. And so what ended up happening is she lives, near family members, and one of all people, her ex-husband, ended up trekking through what's left of the roads, because most of the roads are gone. You have sections of just asphalt and then just hole. And then it's either a hole or a landslide or both, and then it just patches all the way through, and there's only like one or two roads, one from the south, one from the north, and I'm not sure which one, so I think he had to trek through mountains to just get through to see the rest of the family members. That also included my aunt, his ex-wife. And so then once he found out she's alive, and it's okay, ended up trekking back, managed to get in the car and drive somewhat. He had to go all the way over to the coast and the northwest coast. And what found him, which is interesting, and this is happening all over the island, everybody looking for a signal, because if you're in the mountains and inland, you're not getting a signal at all, cell phone. And so he managed to find a coastal highway where everybody and their mother that must have been the scene. Everybody and their mother in their outside of their cars, standing on either the probably the roof of their cars, with their phones in the air, trying to get a signal, just so they can either send a text, a video, or even try to connect the phone call. And for him, I believe it was phone call. It could have been text. I'm not sure. Either way, he got a signal, managed to talk to his daughter in the US. I think she's in Texas. And so that started the information through. Once she had it, sent it all the way up the coast, because we have a rather large family in the United States. And so that information went through. I believe we had secondhand information from my other aunt in the Southwest. She is normally from a beach town, which is at sea level, and you get these storms. It's sort of like, there's gonna be storm surge. So luckily her daughter convinced her to evacuate over to her place, which is inland and up, and praise the Lord that worked out, because to this day the water is still in. Basically, I don't know if it's gonna be a new coastline yet. But the water's still in there, so I don't know if it went inland and then got trapped and then they can't come back out, or if it's that, we have a new coastline. That's happened in even Japan and other places that have huge storm surges and a lot of situation. I mean, it's pouring today from what I understand in the west coast in Puerto Rico. So welcome to the tropics. And so that's two of her sisters. She still hasn't heard from her brother. At least the ones that are alive. Sadly, she has a couple that passed away. And I think her youngest sister is not even on the island. She's in South America somewhere. So Yeah, so that's the West Coast. East Coast. This morning I got a text from my cousin Madi, the one that I was freaking out over. East Coast got hammered. And so, at first it was just one text. I got a second text like probably half hour before, because I wasn't sure if it was like, get those backup texts and then once they get signal it goes through. So, but she did reply to one of mine. So she's not in town. She went over, I think she went to Caguas. So I think she's either in town, because there's no way they're just going to be coming from the mountains. So I'm curious how she got there. Obviously I want all details and like everything and like now. But that's not happening. So she's okay. So my translation for that was that her family's okay. Her immediate family, her husband and her 2 children. If she's in Caguas, my hope is that she's with her mom. And if that's the case, that's up in the mountains somewhere, or at least, I mean, you have family everywhere. So it's probably in town just to get the signal. I'm curious if she managed to get through the mountains yet. My hope, yesterday was interesting because the news in the US is like, oh my god, Trump's horrible and all the rest of this stuff, and then the news on the island is, holy crap, the governor lost his governorship and we're under martial law and the United States owns us. It's like, whoo, like this complete 180. And I keep reminding people, Puerto Rico's autonomous. Everybody's like, hey, it's a territory. It's like, it's a weird thing. You can't do anything without the express written permission from the governor of Puerto Rico. That's just how the Constitution is written since the 1960s, and which is why we're in this situation in the first place, because you wouldn't have all the debt and all the rest of that stuff if you realize that the US would be controlling things. And so it's really interesting. So you had a weird, once troops hit the ground, because troops were really the only ones that came in through the south. They actually came in through amphibious vehicles from the ocean onto certain towns, because you couldn't get in any other way. They came in through Ponce, which is basically coast, little town, and then boom, mountains. So there's like no other way to get in there, and which I believe is the 3rd largest town in Puerto Rico. It's a big town for what it is, and so they had to come in through those vehicles. I'm sure that there's ships all over the place now. There's 2 3-star generals on the island now, and so you have a mix of people that saw the troops and so happy somebody got to them. A lot of places have not seen any of the local government, which has been a good portion of the problem. They have, I think it's called Guardia Civil, which would be having that discussion, because it's not the police. I believe it's like National Reserve, something like that. Yeah, because Guardia is guard and Civil is civil. So yeah, I think that would be National Reserve, basically volunteer trained military. Yeah, that sounds like National Reserve. So Guardia Civil has only been near the capital, and maybe any towns close to the capital, because again, just imagine, as soon as you see any kind of vehicle, it's stopped, because there's devastation everywhere. So a lot of these towns have had a lot of issues where they have not had what was promised to them by the local government. So with Trump finally allowing a bit more access to troops, which have been there on the island since Thursday, which is now 10 days later. It's funny because Hurricane George was 98, which was the last of the hurricanes that had the eye go across the island, but it was vastly weaker by comparison. Still devastated the island. It took 11 days for me to hear from Madi and the rest of my family and everything, but Madi at this point. But this one was 10 days, so it's interesting. We'll see what happens, but the Puerto Rican newspapers are like, they're still trying to figure out why everybody's screaming at Trump and not Rosselló. Ricardo Rosselló is the current governor, and his dad was, I think, 2-time governor as well. Sort of like had it for a couple terms, and then somebody else had it, and then he went back in there again. It's like, oh my god. I think they call those dynasties. So one of the sons is now governor, and you can tell I don't like him. It's mostly because of it's been a dynasty and all this crap has happened under their watch. But I have to give him some credit. He's been trying. I know my dad's like, you can't hate him. I'm like, but, you know, it shouldn't have taken 8 days to tell the President of the United States that they didn't have truck drivers. They knew on Thursday of last week. So, it's been a struggle because if Trump does more, the islanders freak out thinking that they lost their sovereignty. And that's of immediate problem. You're not going to have another plebiscite right now to basically give him that. He can't declare martial law because that would be against the Constitution. I mean, it's a mess. It's a political mess. And I had linked the video before of how complicated it is to do stuff on that island. So what I'm hoping is all the people freaking out in both directions just concentrate on getting relief on the people and stop listening to CNN, because obviously their entire structure is to hate Trump. And again, remember, I didn't vote for him. It's not helping. In fact, I read this wonderful article. I'm trying to remember who was the one that wrote it. I'll link that in the description. I think the title was something like, everybody's looking for a villain in this. And that is true. Everybody's looking, me included. And I keep pointing my fingers at Rosa Joe. And, you know, people in the U.S. are pointing to Trump, and neither's responsible. Irma and Maria are responsible. And so we need to kind of grow up and see the bigger picture. People are dying because they have no electricity, no gasoline or diesel to run their generators, to keep their dialysis machines on, you know, their oxygen machines on, hospitals on, you know. This is big, and it's going to take months and just to stabilize the place and years to recover. The years part is going to be interesting because that will require for people to really tackle the problem with Puerto Rico. And whether or not it is a future, whether or not they need to be a state or not. Because at this point, it is painfully obvious that the local government just does not have control. And so something needs to happen, but that is for years from now. But in the meantime, you have the delicate dance of how many troops should hit the island before people start freaking out. And, you know, you had instances where people started crying, and not because of happiness, because they were terrified that their island is gone. You know, that's a very strong and impassioned fight of people trying to keep their sovereignty, and others going, oh, thank God the United States is here. So it's really difficult, and I wish the media here would kind of chill out, you know, scream at Trump for other things, but this is not one of them. Dude's doing everything he can. He has been with the governor. There's video evidence of it, you know, always, every day for an hour since the storm started. So what if he didn't tell the American people? As far as they're concerned, most people didn't give a crap about Puerto Rico until last week. And that's just the truth. No one cared about Puerto Rico until last week, but because that gave an opportunity for people to scream at Trump, all of a sudden everybody cared. Where the hell were you? So, it just is. So in the meantime, praise the Lord, I'm hearing something. I'm hoping at least some information goes through. Hopefully Mari can give me an idea of how at least her immediate family is doing. And if I can get more from all the other ones, I can sleep a little bit better. You know, I feel terrible because they still don't have power, they still don't have water, and their cell signal is like really, really tiny, if at all. She said she had to move from where she was. So, thank you for all the support, y'all on social media that have been seeing me basically retweet every newspaper on the face of the planet and all information in there. Thank you for your support. It's been really, really difficult, and it's really nice that y'all have been sending me really nice messages and praying for me, and you know, for people that you don't even know, my family, and so thank you. So I'll keep you posted if I hear anything. I'll get back to editing Animation Hangout. For the few people that watch it, I don't care. I enjoy doing it, and talking to the community, the small community that's supporting it. So the episode has been recorded. That was on Monday. I started editing it on Thursday, and y'all on social media know. Just like it was not happening. And yesterday I wasn't home. Yay, family. And so I'll edit that over the weekend. Probably realistically it won't be there until Monday. But yeah, once I get that done, I'll post that. And in the meantime, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.